broadcast is live.
Boom. Morning, darlings, and a warm welcome to the show. This is the 10 o'clock news from the EV Café, brought to you this week by My Energy, home charging made in Grimsby from fish. And I'm John Curtis. Today I'm joined by Sarah Sloman. She's here. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
No, hello.
Hi.
And that's it. Me and Sarah,
Yeah.
You got the best of the bunch. So grab a cuppa. Plug in for the latest in clean transport and sustainability news. Coming up, money to decarbonise freight. Enterprise and Geotab are sitting in a tree. KISSING. Vic Sinex can't sort out the major congestion in London. Dynamic tariffs and how they may spread the load on chargers. And vans working harder than ever, whilst cars kick back a little. Vans get a mention, even though Paul's not here. Oh, hold on. This just in from Lauren Pammer, director at the Green Finance Institute. The government's review of net zero is published today with 7 conclusions. It's 338 pages long. We've done a summary. Here we go. Net zero's creating a new era of change and opportunity. Really? The UK must act decisively to seize the economic opportunities and to smooth the transition. Oh, you don't say. The benefits of investing in net zero today outweigh the costs. Oh, unlocking the ambition of places and communities will deliver the most successful version of net zero. Net zero can materially improve people's lives now and in 2050, but work is needed to secure the benefits and minimise the cost. Net zero by 2050 remains the right target for the UK. It's backed by the science, widely followed, and is creating real opportunity. And I tell you again, this is a government review. Most importantly, significant additional government action is required to ensure that the UK achieves net zero in the best way possible for the economy and the public. We hope that the government take note of their own review. Sarah, it's not earth-shattering, but it is very important.
No. Well, what is nice, though, is when things like this get actually written down and shared and disseminated and digested and spat out the other end on multiple social media platforms, the ultimate headline will be, it's a good idea, yeah? So at least it might get that public support we need.
And yeah, I did say cream transport. I do apologise.
Yeah, we did. I know. Me and Kate are I'm in.
Anyway, let's move on. Because the government were asked to do more. So a government-backed fund is being targeted at small and medium enterprises to help them decarbonise freight. The £7 million Freight Innovation Fund, formerly known as FIF, will be split between up to 36 SMEs that will work with industry to develop ways of making freight more efficient, resilient, and greener. By giving innovators the opportunity to test their ideas, ministers say that the fund will help SMEs roll out new technology and ways of working to unlock potentially huge efficiencies and emissions reductions across the sector. This can include how to organise containers better so that they're more easily broken up for last mile delivery, how to improve links between rail, maritime and road transport. The Innovation Fund was announced last year, so it's not news, and it targets 5 priorities for the freight sector, identified within the plan, including being cost efficient, reliable, resilient, environmentally sustainable and valued by society. This is good news, Sarah. £7 million, 36 SMEs to give their input in real world scenarios.
Yeah, it's a nice sort of trial run. This week I was in London talking to an amazing innovative company who deal with that sort of that last mile delivery piece and how you get the curbside to work for you. But what worried me is their story was all about London, and London seems to be the different way of approaching things to the rest of the city. It always has been, but in terms of that, they want less vehicles entering the city and bigger ones, whereas everyone else wants smaller ones. So I don't know what's going on there. If the trial is going to be centered around London, then we're all a bit doomed, because the rest of us are trying to plan for cities that encourage and embrace micromobility, whereas they're trying to have less frequent but larger deliveries in the city centre. So it's all very confusing, but I guess the proof isn't in the pudding till you eat it, taste it. I don't know, cream, whatever.
The money's being administered by the Connected
Oh,
Places
look at that!
Catapult.
Oh, look, there he is. Standard.
Here he
whatever.
is. Just coming back from the swimming pool, Sam.
What have I walked into?
You being
Only
late every
you.
time. Anyway.
Sorry.
Connected Places Catapult are administrating this money, and it's to solve the issues. We transport 1.6 billion tons of freight every year. So it's a critical sector, and your point is well made. I know Connected Places Catapult are good. They will make sure that there's a UK widespread, I'm sure. Brilliant news. Let's move on to the next one. Hi, Sam. Love you. Anyway, Enterprise. Partnering with Geotab. And let's be honest, why wouldn't you? Enterprise signed an agreement to become an authorized Geotab reseller in the UK. We love Geotab, don't we, chaps? Mm-hmm. Sam, how long have you been using Geotab?
Years.
First, 20 years ago?
Oh, I've been driving EV for 20 years. I haven't been using Geotab for 20 years, but it's, at least a decade, I would have thought.
There you go. Enterprise has signed that agreement, and the deal allows Enterprise customers to source and fit Geotab fleet management solutions across their vehicles. The Geotab Go device enables specific vehicle performance and maintenance data to be extracted from cars, vans, and HGVs and uploaded live for analysis on the MyGeotab platform, providing fleet operators with centralized access to all vehicle data. Danny Glynn, Managing Director at Enterprise FlexiRent, said, partnering with the world-leading telematics specialists such as Geotab means our customers in the UK can extract insights from live data to operate the safest, most cost-effective and sustainable fleets. Our old friend Aaron Jarvis, Geotab Associate Vice President, Sales and Business Development, UK and Ireland, with the longest job title in the world, said, partnering with Enterprise provides us with the opportunity to support some of the world's largest and most diverse businesses. This is an important next step to growing our connections, and it's key to providing even better aggregated data sets and insight. Data's a load of old rubbish unless you do something with it, eh, Sam?
Indeed it is. And I think that just listening to that, I think what's so critical about all of this is these things called cars that we now drive. They used to be deemed mainly mechanical. They're more like iPhones on wheels these days. And the more big fleets, big companies like Enterprise interact with the likes of data gathering companies like Geotab, the more we'll be able to really understand what we're doing with these boxes with four wheels on the corners. So it's really, really important, I think, that these big guys get together and we really, as your question inferred, the data is incredibly valuable, providing we.
He's good, isn't he?
Screenshot.
We can
anyway
do something with it.
Thanks, Sam, for that insight. Congestion. Brilliant. London, for the second year in a row, has been rated the most congested city in the world, according to traffic experts at INRIX. In the UK, overall, traffic delays increased in 79 out of 110 urban areas year over year. INRIX's traffic scorecard showed that drivers in London lose 156 hours over 6 days and nights sitting in congestion, and that's 5% above pre-pandemic delays. In fact, 72%, that's 79 out of 110 of the UK urban areas analysed, have met or exceeded pre-COVID delays. Commuting in London costs the average driver £1,377 in lost time. This is followed by Bristol, £805, and Manchester, £742. Cambridge, Exeter, and Cheltenham, present in the UK top 10 list in 2021, fell out of the top 10, replaced by Edinburgh in 7th, Leeds in 9th, and Leicester in 10th. Congestion. It's a major challenge, and Vic Sinex can't sort this lot out. Sarah, what are we going to do about all these vehicles on the road?
Oh, I say it time and time again. I'm a massive EV advocate, as you know. I do think it's really important, though, to clear those streets for essential vehicles. Every time I go to London, I am astounded at how many people are cramming onto the tube, even when it's a nice day, or jumping into a taxi to just sit in traffic. It completely blows my mind, particularly when you can just pick up one of those electric bikes for next to nothing. It costs like a third of a taxi, and it is the same price as the tube. But I arrived to my meeting feeling quite invigorated. I've seen the city. I got there quicker than anybody else. And I just think that message about how fun micromobility can actually be just hasn't quite got through. It's got to be a try before you buy situation. And then that just reduces the load on the roads, which makes way for these people trying to earn a living.
Good stuff indeed. Now charging. 3 electric vehicle charge point operators, otherwise known as CPOs, have raised the cost of charging at peak times due to high wholesale electricity costs. Genie Point, Ubertricity and Chargy have all joined Tesla in deploying dynamic pricing across their public networks, offering drivers lower rates for charging at off-peak hours and higher prices during peak times. Oliver Archer, lead analyst at Cornwall Insight, said, against the backdrop of rising commodity costs, charge point operators are trying to price in a way that supports the best use of the network while still reflecting high input costs. Dynamic pricing may be a useful tool in this task if done well. In many cases, it will clearly be preferable to pushing up costs across the whole day. The challenge lies in setting a tariff that works for charge point operators and drivers. Using the public network can already be complex and frustrating, and CPOs need to ensure that the dynamic pricing is seen as an opportunity by customers and not simply another inconvenience. And let's be honest, this is a way of managing demand. It's got to be a good thing, Sam, surely.
Yes, it is a good thing, and I obviously that's part of my world, so I'm well aware of dynamic pricing and the way in which it needs to be implemented over all the different CPOs. The only thing I will say on that quote, though, John, is the chap says that the challenge lies in setting a tariff that works for CPOs. Well, the CPOs are the ones that set the tariffs. So what's important is the challenge that the CPOs have in setting their prices, just for a clarification there, because that implies that we are governed by somebody else. We're governed by the price that we either buy electricity for or that we generate it at a certain cost. But it lies with us to decide what our rates are. But what's important is the way in which we disseminate those rates, how they're dynamically balanced and also made in such a way that the customer is informed as to what we're all doing. And if we are doing things in a different way, that could also be construed, or will be, not construed, it will be confusing for the end customer. So I think it's an important element of the overall mix, but we've already got quite a lot of complexity in the EV world. So we've got to make sure that we try and keep these things as simple for the new customer to understand as possible.
And that's exactly right, Sarah, isn't it? We've got to ensure that the customer experience is as good as it can be.
Yeah, and that requires cooperation. If the CPOs don't yet have dynamic apps, for example, there's no communication through to the client apart from on the screen of the charger, by which time you've already pulled off the motorway or gone to the hub to be there. So you're probably going to feel a little bit stung. You're probably going to use the charge point anyway and then question, well, hang on, why was that £1? Why was that £1.20? It was only 80p last time I was here, because you won't be thinking that the average driver doesn't plan as much as people in the transport sector think.
That's very, very true. Okay, let's move on. And finally, the average mileage of a car on business contract hire over a typical 3-year period is down to 49,680 miles, significantly below the long-standing industry benchmark of 60,000 miles, newly published data suggests. With employees commuting less frequently as they blend working from home and visits to their workplaces and clients, the average mileage has significantly dropped. Now then, vans have seen a corresponding average mileage rise due to the sustained demand for home deliveries and mobile services. The average mileage of light commercial vehicles has risen from 68,000 to 74,000 miles in the last quarter. Now, ordinarily, I'd ask Paul to do a happy dance, but let's be honest, that's great news for vans and not massively surprising for cars, Sam.
I think that's one of the statistics that type of statistic where you've got to be a bit careful about looking at it in isolation. So yes, it's great. I'm sure Paul's delighted that there's an increase in miles traveled by van, but it needs to be the right kind of miles. And by that, I mean, we need to make sure, and it's sort of to Sarah's point earlier, we need to make sure that we're efficient with the amount of mileage, certainly in the van commercial sector. So we're not sending an Amazon driver 7 times to the same address every day, delivering a parcel. It needs to be efficient miles. So I would only question that statistic in as much as, what does it really mean in terms of what efficiencies are we benefiting from? If it means that we're delivering significantly more parcels per mile, then great. If it means we're putting loads of more vehicles on the road, not great. So we do need to understand a little bit more about that data, I think, to really understand whether it's a good or a bad thing.
Absolutely. But I think the really simple thing is if you've got telematics, you've got data, you've got route scheduling and route optimization software, Geotab, then you are able to have the knowledge, the information you need to make those informed decisions. Sarah, agree?
How exciting is this, though? Because behavior change is always prompted by a trigger. In this case, if that's a 3-year data set, the trigger was likely to be COVID. So people were not driving anywhere. But what they were doing was shopping online. So vans went through the roof. Now, if we're being told by government now that we would need to reduce congestion now, then with any luck, we can see that trigger happen again. But also the latest thing about reducing speed limits on motorways and having car-free Sundays in cities like Bristol has been doing for nearly a decade will hopefully help people to realise that their lives don't have to dramatically change by making small switches that have huge data impacts.
You're absolutely right. Now then, really exciting stuff. It's our webinar next Wednesday. Yay! So, 18th of January, 12 noon. Get your tickets booked. Get your registration in, because we've got some amazing guests, and I kid you not, Carl Magnus Norden, founder of Volta Trucks. I am frothing. Alistair Cooper, managing director of Terberg. Now, Terberg is a company you will never probably have heard of, but they handle 86% of all of the stuff that comes into the UK. Amazing organisation. Steve Williams from Direct Line Group. We've got a little something to tell you. And Phil Barnes from Geotab. Did we mention Geotab? I think we did. Really excited about all of that. I know it's exciting stuff, Sammy. The links are on our LinkedIn page, socials, or by emailing hello@evcafe.org if you want to come along and watch the webinar. It really is going to be fabulous. And you will see Paul go into overdrive with Carl Magnus Norden and Alistair Cooper. Oh, he's so excited. He's like a little boy at Christmas, isn't he, Sarah?
I'm going to bring popcorn. I think I'm just going to say nothing for the whole show and just watch, just eat. Yeah.
Right, so then, if you've got any clean transport PR news, you should send it to us at hello@evcafe.org. We can get it out on the Friday broadcast. Until next Friday, it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from them. This has been an EV Cafe production, brought to you this week by My Energy. Other sustainability news services are available, but this is just
Fun!
Thank you for joining in, Sarah. Good effort. The EV Cafe News is regulated by Big Studio Interval, Sparky from My Energy, Tuck from the AA, installed by EV Civils and monitored by Geotab. The news is performed by professionals. Please don't try this without a Luke Hubbard New Year's resolution. I should have rewritten that line and the drive to deliver it. We are the EV Cafe, supporting the transition to clean transport. Until next Friday, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I love the news. Well done, John.
Oh, I'm a dick.